Good morning. This is the January 20th meeting of the Environmental Resource Committee. Call the meeting to order, and we'll stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Do you have a program? I know I got one on my phone.
I have one extra. I have one copy. There were supposed to be copies of the agenda and minutes given to us, but we haven't got them yet.
I got one by email. Several days ago.
Yeah.
Well, I got a copy by email the other day.
Yeah, I think we all have them at home, but he just didn't bring one with him.
That's all right.
Mr. Chair, do I need to go make a few copies?
That would probably be helpful. Thank you, Chad. The first item is the draft agenda from the last meeting. Are there any amendments that anyone has to the meeting minutes?
The draft agenda from the last meeting.
The draft minutes.
I'm sorry, okay. I'm just trying to keep it.
That's a senior moment.
AGE.
Are there any, if there's no amendments to the meeting, we need a motion to approve the minutes.
I so moved.
We have a second?
Second.
So we all approve? Everyone say aye?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. Next item is a discussion of items that are not on the agenda. Let's wait a minute until Chad gets back. He has some things for us, and I'm sure he should hear whatever we have to say. While we're waiting, we can welcome our guest speaker, Mickey Bosman, from the Brunswick County Solid Waste Organization. What is your current title? Are you the solid waste coordinator? Is that?
Yes, sir. Solid waste and recycling coordinator for the county.
Okay.
And executive director of Keep Brunswick County Beautiful.
Good. I got all that from the internet, but I wanted to confirm it. So we'll talk about all that in a few minutes. While we're waiting, do we have any public?
No.
No.
So there's no public comments. Okay. One of the ERC items of discussion that came up just before the meeting was getting nameplates so we all know who each other are. And Don suggested that, and Chad was in agreement on that, so that'll come up for the future.
I'm good.
Thank you.
Oh, nice catch.
All right, we're at the ERC discussion of items not on the agenda. Um,
I guess I'm not sure whether it be added to the agenda or not on the agenda.
Sorry, your mic's off?
Oh, I'm sorry. I guess this would be maybe an item not on the agenda or added to the agenda, but possibility of some small budget for this committee next budget year. We don't have any money. And perhaps talking with Chad and Finance Director and Lisa to see what we could come up with. And I don't think we're talking, major amount of money. But for example, don't have any money for travel, conference registration, and that kind of thing.
Has this come up at all in any of discussion that you've been involved in, Chad?
Catch me up to speed real quick about what I missed, what was printed out.
Giving a budget for ERC activities in the next fiscal year.
Physical year. So talking with Lisa briefly about this would be coming before the board, commissioners during budget time, and having a list of things that you would like to request for budget, such as the rain garden, travel expenses, stuff like that. I know you are interested in taking a trip to Jacksonville, to their recycling center. The rain garden, as discussed, and I can update the board later, possibly a couple rain gardens, the expenses of that. I think there is, as John Michaud has exited and retired from the town, I know that there was some money left over allocated toward other projects that can be moved around for specific stuff, such as the rain garden. He did specifically tell me that. So I think there is capability to do what you want to do and I can write a note to bring at the February meeting to update y'all how we need to go about doing that, because we are getting into budget season, and what would be the best way, talking to Tara and Lisa about how to go about doing that and creating maybe a line item or in my budget or in Matt's budget or both, to help fund projects that y'all would like to see in the next fiscal year. If you'd like me to do that, I can certainly have
Please.
that further
Yes,
discussion
we would
and more
like you
detail.
to.
I know the board's probably going to want to hear from y'all going into budget approval. So, Mr. Farrell, if I know you just presented to the Board of Town Council earlier this month, you might have to do it again as far as budget comes around, and go from there.
Okay. Well, we would appreciate any guidance you can give us on the budget area. I know, Don, your experience with government service would be invaluable here, and maybe suggesting some things that we should have a budget for. I would point out now that with the pandemic and with the changes that are taking place in the world in holding meetings virtually as opposed to having everybody attend, the expenses associated with that are next to nothing.
Right. Well, yeah, you're right. I think the planning board had one or two Zoom meetings, as I recall, back in the summer.
Your mic's off again.
I'm sorry.
Just leave it on.
The planning board had one or two Zoom meetings back in the summer or early fall to look at projects, proposals, rather than traveling down here. So that's definitely a possibility.
Right. But if there are field trips that we would feel would be beneficial to the town, we should know what the travel policies are for the town. Because we do want to go up to Jacksonville and visit the recycling center that Sunoco runs up there. Are there any other items that anyone can think of that we should have some funds allocated for?
I would say by February's meeting,
Okay,
kind of have a good list of things you would look at budgeting for the fiscal year. I know that working with this council, going out on a limb, I know with past councils and commissioners that I have worked with, they're going to want to be a little detailed and as far as how much it costs versus just throwing out an allocated amount of money, and being a little bit more specific. So the more detail I can provide them up front would be probably a little bit more beneficial in the long run.
yeah, okay, so we'll put,
Obviously, the rain garden, that's a work in progress. We know that's going to happen. And I think after talking with you and Mr. Gregg, that the possibility of multiple rain gardens could very much happen. And again, I can go into that in a little bit more detail later on in the meeting.
okay,
But I'll talk to Lisa and Tara and bring y'all an update. If you want to kind of gather a list of, I'm sure we'll have a meeting about a week before the regular scheduled meeting to talk about that, but getting together a list of things that might go ahead and start thinking about that for the next fiscal year would probably be a little bit more beneficial as well.
okay, so Don, we need to put that on the agenda for
Right.
February's
Got it.
meeting. And if anyone has any ideas that come up before then, please send me an email or call me, and we can add that to a list. Are there any other items of discussion not on the agenda we need to talk about? Okay. There's no public comments. We've covered that. We've already approved the minutes from the last meeting. I got myself crossed here. We didn't approve the draft agenda. Do we have any amendments to the draft agenda? If not,
I move approval.
okay. Second to that?
Second.
All right, so we have a draft agenda, we have approved meeting minutes. Next is our guest speaker, Mickey Bozeman.
Mr. Chair, before we go any forward, you had a motion and a second. You would need to vote all in favor or nay.
Okay. All in favor of the draft agenda, please say aye.
Aye.
Oh, okay.
Anyone opposed? Okay, we have an agenda that's been passed. Next is our guest speaker, Mickey Bozeman. And we thank you very much for coming to speak to us, and the podium is yours.
Thank you guys for having me today. I think it's really great what y'all are doing. I support you 100%. I know that my board members at Keep Brunswick County Beautiful would feel the same way. I plan to give them an update at our next meeting on what you guys are doing. So again, thank you for having me. I do typically have a presentation, PowerPoint, and it gets a little bogged down. So what I like to do is I like to start with questions. Of course, we can do more after a little bit of a spiel, but just to get things out of the way that you might be wondering about. Typically, when people come to see a recycling presentation or a litter presentation, they bring questions with them. So it kind of sparks the conversation, and then we can go into some more detail after that. Does anybody have anything for me? Or we're just going to dive right in?
Our primary focus is to find a way to create and sustain a more active recycling program in Sunset Beach. We have a very low level of participation in recycling. Harold, would you share the comments of your neighbors?
Yeah, I've been talking to people on my street, and they challenge me, and they say the green boxes goes to the same place as the field, and they feel like they would like to know what you do with it once we get unloaded.
Okay, so that's a good start. The whole process here in Brunswick County is that they are taken to the same place. It's called the transfer station down at the landfill, if any of you have ever been there. And it's exactly that, it's the transfer station. So what we have is bays for each material. We have our recycling bay, construction debris, and then your regular trash. So once the trucks dump onto the tipping floor, they are pushed into the tractor trailer beds, which then are hauled to the separate places. Trash goes to Sampson County, recycling goes to Sunoco in New Hanover County. And just with that said about Sunoco, I know that you guys want to go visit. Since right now they're not really doing tours, you can find that on YouTube. You just punch in Sunoco Recycling. There's one, excuse me, the video that's most similar to our facilities is the one in Raleigh. And if you put Sunoco Recycling, you'll see it come up. And it takes you through the process of the sorting facility. So yes, they're right, but then they're also wrong. But I would appreciate if you would pass that on to them. And the transfer station is a public facility. So if anyone wants to go and see it, they're more than able, they can go at any time. It's open 6 days a week. Don, did you have any?
Well, one thing, I live out in Windfall, which is off of Georgetown Road. The level of participation out there is extremely low, and we don't. My wife and I do not participate. As you know, I tend to take mine to the park site generally, or down to the place off 904. But the way the town is set up, I think it's $90 a year. I believe, is it $90 a year for recycling bin?
Yeah, it's in that neighborhood, yeah.
In that neighborhood. And for some people, that's a lot of money. And that's one reason that they don't, participation is low in the town. As I was telling Harold earlier, when I lived in Charlotte, we had recycling, but it was part of our overall property tax. And some people thought it was free, which it really wasn't. And they picked up every other week, which really was about right for us on the blue bin. So that might be something you might want to address. I don't know whether the town has looked at mandatory recycling here or not. I'm a little bit out of the loop on that. But anyway, I'll shut up and address that.
So, the issue going on right now with other towns that I'm aware of is they're trying to get it out of the property tax.
Right, okay.
Completely, and put it to the residents as a fee.
Right.
Just like your regular utility bill.
Right.
And typically towns do have that on a utility bill, including trash service.
Right.
So, yes,
Can
sir.
I'm sorry to interrupt. Can I ask the specifics of which town, are there any other beach towns from here, where do y'all cover all the way up to Leland, that have mandatory recycling fees in there?
For, that are included in the property taxes. Currently, the town of Leland, Oak Island, Castle Beach, Ocean Isle Beach, Charlotte, and I think that's the only ones that actually have, Southport.
So Leland, Oak, OIB, Southport, and what was the other one?
Castle Beach
Okay.
and Charlotte. And with that being said, like I said, they are trying to remove it from the property tax.
They all are?
There's discussions in all of them. They haven't done it because, of course, we're not in budget year yet. But they are looking at the numbers and the increase in fees.
Are we the only area that pays $90 a year?
No, sir. Anywhere outside of the towns that I just mentioned, they subscribe just like Sunset Beach residents would. You do get a discounted rate because at a certain amount of homes that sign up for it, you get that discount. Say someone that lives in Ash that doesn't live in a neighborhood with several homes, they're paying a lot more for it.
Are the fees the same town to town?
To my
Similar.
knowledge, yes. I'm not with GFL. I have a contract with them for my drop-off sites and for my trash pickup. But as far as negotiations between towns, I'm not keen on or not too aware of.
From my understanding, with Sunset Beach, residents here have a discounted rate because the town does a lot of the administrative work associated with the program. You get outside of the Sunset Beach town limits and the rate is higher. I don't know the exact numbers, but I think it's like $10 or $15 a year higher because the administrative work is all done by GFL. So Sunset Beach residents get a discounted rate, and I don't know if the other beach towns do it the same way, but in a discussion with some of the town staff, the topic of including recycling in the tax base is a very emotional one for a lot of the residents here, and it has been discussed, and it's not something that the town government wants to pursue.
Well, that's interesting, Mr. Chairman, because as I understand and recall, the trash pickup is included in our property tax. We don't really pay a separate fee for that. And it's so people think it's free, which it's not free. So I'm not sure what the distinction is, but if they think it's, well, I don't know. Because we've had waste management and the successor has been running trash pickup in the county for years. I mean, maybe 20 years or so, and we've never paid a separate fee for it. So.
Yeah, the county provides all trash pickup.
Right.
And there has been discussion in the past about adding curbside recycling countywide. But as you can imagine, that cost would be astronomical.
Oh, yeah.
So that's what brought the towns on board initially to provide it to their residents. Now, I did just recall Southport's a little different. Southport does have a fee that shows up on the utility bills for a recycling fee, so it helps pay for their program. And it is hard at the beaches because you have a lot of rental properties, and a lot of times you'll find a whole lot of contamination in rental properties because they just see it as another trash can and they want to get rid of it. So, but the county does provide drop-off sites. We have 14 centers. The county parks all have a drop-off site, and then the 4 convenience sites as well. And we have one at the county complex. And I'll be honest with you, the price is going up. Every year, my budget's hit real hard. But I'm a resident of Leland, and Leland recently went to monthly pickups versus biweekly.
Really? Wow.
So when they did that, I'm a witness that I have to visit the drop-off sites a lot more frequently now.
Yeah.
And I would pay that annual fee to get my biweekly pickup back. But I understand everybody's different, but I also think if you include something in a property tax, You need to look at all your residents as a whole. How many are actually going to recycle? So I think them going through the town, requesting the recycling is a much better option than just throwing cans out to everyone.
Well, I think one of the, of course, every town is different, but one of the situations here we've got, aside from the beach cottage rentals, is we've got a lot of second homes on the mainland. I think I mentioned I worked for the Census Bureau last summer, trying to track down those that didn't file their report in April. A lot of second homes in the town area. We've got probably 8 or 10 in Windfall, and here behind the food line, there's a lot of second homes in there. So why should they pay for it when they're only down here 2 or 3, 4 weeks a year? So it's that dynamic too that comes into play. So it's like everything else, it's complicated.
It is, and it's very hard for me to predict budget-wise for my drop-off sites because I'm not sure what's going on with the towns, who's going to be dropping their programs and things like that. But I mean, that's just a suggestion to put a fee on there. It is a utility, either way you look at it, just like trash. So I think putting it in the property tax could come up later whenever it starts getting more and more expensive, because recycling is not free. It used to be, but it's not anymore.
One of the things that I guess I'm kind of hogging the conversation here that you touched on with Lions Club several weeks ago is that a lot of recycling is contaminated with stuff that's really not recyclable. Could you touch on that a little bit? I know you got this, but touch on that a little bit if you would.
So contamination in recycling, or what we in the industry call contamination, is not trash. It's materials that are not accepted by our sorting facility. I have brought some examples. They're in the brochures and on the magnets that I passed out. One of the easiest ones to start with is glass. The only glass that is accepted is your bottles and jars. That's it. No glassware, no mirrors, no window panes. All of that stuff contaminates this good quality material that you see here. We can move on to metal, steel food cans, and soda cans. That's it. And this is not just recycling in general. We have drop-off sites that take scrap metal. So any kind of metal can go in those sites. But for commingled recycling, it's different. You have to be able to sort it, and the equipment at Sunoco has to be able to recognize it, and which is why it decreases the type of materials that go in the bin.
Mickey, question? So the labels that are on glass bottles and jars and labels that are on plastic bottles,
They're fine. They will get...
so they don't have to be removed ahead of time?
No. Once the materials are broken down, that paper and stuff pretty much gets washed off, including the glue. So paper is pretty much a neutral item. Most any paper can go in the recycling, except for if it's coated, such as my laminated sheets here. This would not go in the bin because it's not, the machines are not going to recognize it as paper. Cardboard, paperboard, your cereal boxes. The one thing that is accepted that's coated is your juice boxes and the aseptic containers that like chicken broth comes in and things like that.
How about glossy magazines and
Magazines are great. Junk mail, you don't have to take the windows out of the envelopes or anything, just all junk mail.
One of the things that just infuriates me, well, kind of a good news, bad news thing is I take my recycling down to the county park over here, usually, and very often the bin would be filled with cardboard boxes that are not broken down. like somebody's filled up with Amazon boxes and what have you, and that just eats up a whole lot of space. I wish that the user would break them down. That's a rant, I guess, but that just it just eats up a lot of space.
It takes up so much space, and I get calls about it regularly. I put signs out, but nobody reads my signs.
Nobody reads signs.
Yeah. So there's that, and there's plastic bags. Plastic bags, any plastic bag is not accepted. It's not. It's a troublesome contaminant. It ties up in the machines when they're trying to sort, which they have to shut down the process. They have to put an employee on the sorting belts to cut out the bag. And of course, that takes away from production time and safety for the employees as well.
Well, that's another peeve of mine. Every time I go to the recycling center, there's somebody throwing in a whole big trash bag of recycling, and the sign clearly says no trash bags. So, just
That's the number one contaminant is bags. And I understand it. If you're putting something in your trash bin or in a dumpster, you think that it needs to be bagged. Trash is complete opposite. Trash should be bagged at all costs. But recycling, they want clean and loose. So no bags at all. And that includes shredded paper. I get that asked a lot. Shredded paper is not accepted. The reason why is because once it is dumped onto a conveyor belt, it basically blows all over the floor. It's not a retrievable sorting material. So, and I get, well, what if I put it in a bag? There's no plastic bags either, so
How
you
about a
can't
paper
win.
bag? No?
No.
Okay.
Paper bags are recyclable, just not when they're filled with shredded paper. Because again, that
Okay.
shredded paper is, once it goes through that sorting line, it's rumbled and tumbled and shredded paper goes everywhere. It makes a huge mess. Plastic. Plastic is the most questioned item of all. If you'll look on this picture here, you basically see detergent bottles, shampoo bottles, drinking bottles, milk jugs. That's about it. And that's all that's accepted. Typically, there are 1s and 2s if you want to go by the resin code. However, some single-use items are made with 1s and 2s, and single-use items are not allowed. So it's really important to stick with these quality materials here. And these are your typical household items that are plastic that you would want to put in your recycle bin. So one thing you will see on our list that you will not see in other places of North Carolina, and that is the clamshell containers. Clamshell containers are accepted at Sunoco facility because Sunoco is a packaging facility first and a sorting facility second. And they actually have a facility that makes clamshells. So they need that product. So that's one exception to the rule with statewide recycling. We are very similar if you go to other parts of North Carolina. So, plastics. I get asked a lot about yogurt cups, single-use yogurt cups. Those are actually a number 5, and there is no market for it. If there's no market for the material, they don't own it because they can't get rid of it. And in the long run, it will end up being landfilled. So I get questioned a lot my whole career, basically. Why recycle? Because it's all going to the landfill anyway. They tell us it's being recycled, but it's not. Well, we like to call that wishful recycling because that is a resident filling up their bin with whatever they want to recycle, not knowing what truly is. And of course, some of those items are going to go to the landfill eventually. Which again, Sunoco has to pay tipping fees at these landfills. So that's another reason why our costs are going up. They have to put the money back on us as residents. So it's very important to stay to the list. Keep it simple. If you don't know it's recyclable, don't put it in the bin. Put it in the trash. It's the best now at this time to do that and stay safe that way.
You know, it strikes me, Mr. Chairman, and that this is an enormous education process, isn't it? And
It's never ending.
and there's so many people that, you know, don't read the newspaper, don't watch a whole lot of news on TV, don't really understand this process. That's not being critical, it's just a statement of fact, I think. And-
Well, it's also very different because from what I've read about your programs here, they are specific to this region.
Right.
And they are unique, as you pointed out, some of the unique features. And most of the people that are in our community are not natives here. They're from other areas where the practices are very different. And they come down here expecting it to be the same, and it's not. And your literature is all very good if people take the time to educate themselves. So,
Well,
but-
I'm sorry.
I'm sorry, go ahead and
Well, I
finish.
was just gonna mention, used to have a neighbor in Charlotte that didn't recycle because it was too much trouble. And I thought, how much trouble is it to throw it in this bin versus in the other bin? But she said it was too much trouble to recycle it. And it's really kind of a behavior modification thing, really, which is a whole different discussion.
Well, trash recycling, waste in general, is local, no matter where you go. If you live in California, they have a set way because the markets are different everywhere you go. And if there's not an end market, there's nowhere for that item to go. And North Carolina has a very strong plastic recycling industry, as well as glass and paper. Sunoco also owns a facility in South Carolina, which is where all of our paper goes to, and cardboard, and it is a Sunoco facility. It's their paper mill. So they can process cardboard with no problem, because they're using it. They are their own end market at that point. But these materials on this plastic list, these 1 and 2 materials, is exactly what the manufacturers in North Carolina need for their recycling programs.
So Mickey, the 4 different types of recycling that you have here, plastic, metal, glass, paper, what do those items become the second time around?
Typically, if it's made into the same product, first of all,
Okay,
or else they are converted into things like plastics. Plastics are being made into decking, clothing. Matter of fact, I brought everyone a reusable bag that was made from plastic bottles. It has a nylon interior, so it has strength to it, and they were made in South Carolina, I believe. So,
do you know what the percentages are of recycled material, like in something like that?
well,
I don't mean to put you on the spot, I'm just for my own edification.
For plastics, an example with plastics is plastic does have an end life eventually. It does break down, it degrades. It will last forever in the microplastic form. But a material such as a soda bottle can only be recycled so many times. So, aluminum cans can be recycled infinitively. They can be recycled and back on the shelf within 30 days. So I like to tell people, if you have the option between a plastic container and an aluminum can, choose the aluminum can. But I don't want to drink out of plastic anyway, so that's just my personal opinion. So with the accepted materials, there are a lot of unaccepted materials. And I have listed several that I get questioned about a lot on the brochure and the magnet. However, that's not just it. If you stick with the accepted list, you're doing great. And it probably will cut down on your space in your bin a little bit as well.
Great job.
Yeah, really.
Pardon?
I said she did a great job.
Yeah, can you comment a little bit about the convenience sites? And-
Yes.
And the difference between a convenience site and a landfill?
So the convenience site is just that, it's convenient. The county noticed years ago, whenever they first opened their landfill, and this is,
Long time
you
ago.
could probably tell more than me, that's
A
at
long
least
time
30
ago,
years.
Way back in the day.
At that time, when I was growing up, we took our trash to the convenience sites. We had compactors at the convenience site, so it would compact the trash, and then the tractor trailers would come, or it would fill the tractor trailers, and then they would come haul it to the landfill. Well, eventually the compactor was not so much needed any longer because the county provided trash pickup curbside, which has only actually been into play since 1999. So we're the county didn't have trash pickup 20 years ago, which is really a little mind-blowing when you think about it.
Yeah.
Especially when you're talking about people that come from different locations and have had that service for years, not to mention the curbside recycling. So, but the convenience sites, we do accept construction debris, household trash. When we have our scrap metal program, recycling there, textiles, clothing and shoes. We have used cooking oil recycling there. We have some book swap buildings that are not in great shape right now, but they're getting age on them, and so I'm trying to make them last as long as I can. What else do we have there? Batteries, household batteries you can take to the convenience sites, as well as fluorescent bulbs and CFLs, the curly light bulbs. So that's about it for the convenience sites. Now, if you have other materials, say you wanted to recycle some used oil filters, antifreeze, gas, that would need to go to the landfill. Electronics as well. I forgot about electronics. They are at all of our sites, the 4 convenience sites and landfill electronics recycling. There's no charge for that. We accept shingles, yard waste.
But there is, for a lot of this stuff to be dropped off, there are charges for the convenience site that you don't pay at the landfill.
The charges are for household trash. They charge by the bag, and that's simply because we have to pay for the hauling to get it to the landfill. Same with yard waste and construction debris. And if people call me directly to ask me pricing, I'm going to tell them to go to the landfill. It is going to be a lot cheaper. We have scales at the landfill, so you're paying $2.95 per 100 pounds. If you go to the convenience site, they're going to charge you by the truckload, and it can get very pricey.
Now, I believe, are you gonna have a free dump week this spring?
Yes, we have 2 free dump weeks a year currently, and that's where you can take items like your yard waste or construction debris at no charge, and it's for the entire week. I tell people if you don't mind paying a little bit, it's probably better not to show up for free dump week because the line can go pretty far out, and you're gonna make a day of it, but,
But the free week does not apply to convenience sites.
no, sir.
All right.
And again, that's because we have to pay for the hauling of the materials to the
Right.
landfill. We also just opened, and you're gonna be my first, my first residents that I'm speaking to about it. We just opened a hazardous waste facility at the landfill. I got a grant from DEQ that helped me get this program started. It's working out great. We've had 2 trial runs.
So that's your 14th site then? Because you'd mentioned 14 before?
The hazardous waste site
Yeah,
is,
that's-
no, that's actually located at the landfill. The 14 sites are the county parks, and that's only, county parks only accept commingled recycling. 4 convenience sites and the landfill. And we also have a drop-off site for commingled at the complex in Bolivia. But they are listed on the back of that brochure, and they're numbered, and there's a map showing where they're at, so you can kind of see what location is closest to you.
And what is considered hazardous waste?
Hazardous waste would be a lot of the stuff you find in your garage. Old paint, especially oil-based. We take latex paint year-round at the landfill because we can actually use it for landfill cover because it's water-based. So we do recycle that latex paint in that way or reuse it. But oil-based paint, stains, different kind of chemicals, pool chemicals.
Batteries.
Yes, like the your lithium batteries and things that should not go in. But we take batteries anyway all year, but typically we only like to take household batteries, not those lithium batteries that are a little bit more scary.
Not the ones that come with power tools and,
We take those all year long at the landfill, but they can, if they come into the hazardous waste event, I'm not going to turn them away or tell them to go take it somewhere else. I'm just going to take it. But we have this event. It's the 3rd Thursday of every month. So we'll be having one tomorrow. It's my 3rd one, but I haven't pushed out the advertisement yet. I just did my newsletter. I kept a running list of people that called asking about hazardous waste disposal, and so I contacted them directly. So I've had a good flow going the past 2 events, so we'll see tomorrow how tomorrow goes, and then we'll start advertising a little bit. I had to get some practice in first. But you can take fertilizers, pesticides, anything like that can come to the hazardous waste event. And it's a drive-through event. You don't have to get out your car. I'm standing there waiting for you, and I'll get it out the car for you, and you can just go on about your day. And that's
Okay.
from 9 a.m. to 12 p.m. right now.
that's in Bolivia.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Any other questions or? Is there anything else we need to know?
Get the freebies?
Yes. It's hot talking in a mask. I don't have to do that much. So since you guys are a beach town, I brought these little phone cases. So if you go out to the beach, walking on the beach, you can stick your phone in them. It has a double fasten. They're not waterproof. I'm not allowed to say that. They're water resistant. So just to be correct about that. But then here are the bags that were made from plastic bottles. This is the plastic that was recycled, this nylon fabric. They're very durable. They have a pocket to them as well. Tells you the story. If you have children or grandchildren, you can explain the process to them. So,
I'll have it, yeah. Okay.
put you to work.
Thank you.
So So I did find out, I have heard from several towns that wanted to start recycling, that were changing their recycling programs. There are actually, for the outreach portion that might be good for your budget, is items like the magnets. I've had a couple of towns ask me where I got them, how much they were, that they were going to try to fit them in. And it's just a good thing to have in the lobby. A lot of the rental companies like them. They can put them in their rental homes. So
How about bags like this?
those were probably around $1 a piece. We give them out. Keep Brunswick County Beautiful gives them out at festivals and events that we attend. We usually attend Sunset at Sunset, Oyster Festival, Festival by the Sea. We do a couple in Southport, Oak Island, Earth Day events. We do something like Belleville, Town, Leland, different events throughout the county, hand all this stuff out to residents.
Well, I for one appreciate her coming. I think it's very informative, and probably you could talk another hour or two about some of this stuff, couldn't you?
Oh, I will. I'll go back to my office and talk on the phone.
Well, your suggestions about outreach are really the next step for us and what we should do and how to do it. The magnets and the bags and the brochures.
I'm not sure about Sunset's website, but some towns have actually put the brochure and the magnet as a whole
Yeah, they
on
are.
the website directly.
They are on the town website.
They are?
Yeah.
Okay, good. That's great. Because it is county-wide. All our recycling goes to the same place, so it's important that we have a united message, I guess, all across the board.
Well, we also have an organization in town called Sunset Vision that has put trash containers by the walkways getting onto the beach that people can pick up and use to
I
put
love
trash
that. I
in.
love that. I saw that on Facebook.
Yeah.
I actually worked with them a little bit. We went in with Keep Brunswick County Beautiful and Keep New Hanover Beautiful, supplied them with 50 cigarette butt receptacles.
We've got them in our garage, yes.
Yes.
We're waiting to put them out.
So we got the stickers for them and everything. They look pretty cool. They're very easily mountable. We can get different kinds, but we did supply Sunset Vision with them. So we're really looking forward to seeing those go up. I think you're putting them at the public accesses. Is that correct?
Where the light rings are on the beach, we're gonna work with the Department of Public Works in the town, and we're gonna mount one at each beach access walkway, and then put several in the town park, a couple at the gazebo, a couple at the fishing pier for the boat ramp.
I love it. I've tried to get them out on some of the fishing piers at some of the other beaches and was denied. So
Why doesn't the county ban the use of single-use plastic bags at all grocery stores and other stores?
I think that has a lot to do with kind of the same thing as the bottle bill. Once it reaches a certain point, it's declined for whatever reason. Not to say anything bad or anything, but I think that a lot of it has to do with making businesses upset and them leaving.
You say the bottle bill, you're talking about a refund or a deposit charge that, like a nickel in a bottle.
Yes.
You bring it back, you get your nickel back.
We have tried to implement that program in North Carolina since I've been working for the county, and it reaches a certain level and it gets pushed out every time. So, and the same with plastic bags. Dare County did that, and then they when it got to a certain level, it was retracted, and it was. I mean, even the businesses were on board with it. So it was very interesting to see that happen.
Thank you.
But that is an idea for the town. You got a lot of businesses out here. Like I said, I give these bags out at events, and I've had a lot of festivals. People use plastic bags when they're selling their products or whatever. And I'll see people walk by and say, I'll trade you. You can have this bag if you give me that bag. Because I know where that bag's going to end up. But and that goes to another point real quick, if I may. The plastic bags, plastic film, like Ziploc bags, bubble wrap. Those Amazon contain bags that have they're paper on the outside, but then they have plastic on the inside. Those can be taken back to the grocery stores for recycling. They cannot go in your commingled recycling. We already talked about bags, but bubble wrap and that stretchy film is all the same. I believe it's, if I'm thinking correctly, they are number 5 plastics. I'm not, don't quote me on that. But they are not accepted in this recycling. However, they can be recycled. And you can find that information at plasticbagrecycling.org. That is a pretty good website. You can punch in your zip code. It tells you what stores will recycle that material for you. And it's typically most grocery stores right at the front door.
Okay.
Okay.
All right.
Thank you very much for coming and for sharing with us. And I assume we can continue to work together in the future. And we look forward to coming up with some programs in Sunset Beach and improving the environment.
Most definitely. I appreciate you guys having me. If you don't mind, I would like to sit in and listen to some of your ideas, if that's okay. All right?
Lisa, do you have any more of the brochures?
Yes.
Can I have some of those?
Okay, thank you. Next item, we've been going about an hour now. Should we take a 5-minute break for restrooms?
Mr. Chairman, I need to leave about 20 to 12 for another commitment, so just a heads up. We may be done by then.
Well, I got to leave before 11:30 because I got a
Okay.
contract.
Okay, well, let's
I just
just
want a couple.
Okay.
let's just keep going
Yeah, sure.
then.
Mr. Chair, it's up to the pleasure of the board if you wanted to do that, or if you wanted to push through the meeting. You certainly have the motion or the whatever the pleasure of you and the board
Let's
is.
push ahead.
All right, we'll push ahead. Well, we've had a lot of information from Mickey, and the next item would be to discuss the recycling programs and reduction of single-use plastics in Sunset Beach. I know Harold and Greg have kind of taken on this task.
I talked with Greg, and he and I talked to the manager of Food Line.
Right.
Very receptive to paper bags, very receptive to stop the plastic bags, but he has to go above. They're trying, the whole organization of Food Line is trying to do something with the bag.
With the plastic bags.
Yeah, and we talked to him about it, and Chris Wilson, that's the guy that's managing Food Line here. And I think they've got our phone number and email, and we're going to be in contact with him.
Good.
More than what we did yesterday.
Okay. How about using the materials that we have more proactively? Is there something we should be doing with rental properties, or how do we get this information out into the community? I know it's on the website, but I like this because I'll take this home and put it by the recycling container in the garage. And it's something we can look at every time we go out there.
If I may ask, how many of those magnets do you have, roughly?
I don't know.
Okay. It'd be nice if we could put these on the refrigerators in the cottages. Just as
Rental properties. is
rental
another
properties,
thing.
yeah.
I did have a rental company at one of the beaches now contact me about that.
Uh-huh.
Push the slide.
Is it on now?
Yes.
Okay. One of the companies actually got the template of the magnet and ordered some themselves and put in their homes. So that's a thought as well.
Mickey, the problem can be that they don't stick on stainless steel refrigerators, which a lot of people have. They like the decor. How about some sort of a sticker that would go on the recycled can, or on the lid, and when you go to pick it up, you're looking right at it.
They used to do that.
So I have worked with GFL Waste Industries on this project. They are putting them, they have the stickers made just like the magnets. They're putting them on the new cans that are being issued, but there's really no way to get them on the cans that are already out there. So unfortunately, a lot of the cans have false information on them. But I'm talking to them on a regular basis to try to get that information out to the old cans as well.
If you have any pull with Green for Life, if they give us the stickers, we'll get them on the cans with volunteers.
That would be fantastic, and I'll mention that to them this afternoon.
Good to you.
You mentioned the YouTube videos. We'll have to look at that. That might be something we want to have shared at a council meeting to be seen by the broader community. Does that talk about what the use of the recycled materials are?
No, sir. That is just a video showing you the sorting line. It shows
Okay.
you how the materials are dumped onto a conveyor belt and then taken through the different processes to sort out the materials.
Does Sunoco, would they be willing to send a representative to talk about the use of recycled materials and?
They will probably be more business-minded about things and tell you where the different materials are going.
Right. And what the markets are and,
And I have a contact of someone that typically will do a presentation. With COVID, it might be virtual, but I'm sure he would be willing to help out. So you can see their side of everything.
would you give us that contact so we can talk to them and see
Yes,
if we want to have them come to another meeting?
I can send it to Don's
To
email.
Don? That'd be
Okay.
great.
Okay.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Because I think a lot of the reservation people have is they don't really understand where these materials are going and what benefits that they have in
Right.
society.
Yeah.
I visited a friend in California, and he had 2 containers for his trash, one for recyclables and one for household waste. And when the truck came around, they just dumped them both in the same thing because they didn't have any markets for recycled materials, so they landfilled everything. So there wasn't any household separation that was done. But North Carolina is a very different environment.
Right.
And people coming here from other areas, they need to understand that that this works here, where it might not work in other places. Is there any other discussion about recycling? We'll keep this on the agenda every month, and we'll continue to talk about it and develop ideas and actions. And we'll remember Sunset Vision's offer to put signs on containers. Thank you, Pete. How about a visit to the Jacksonville place? Greg, you said you talked to me.
Yeah, so I talked to the safety coordinator, Dora Venegas' office, and of course there are no tours because of some pandemic or something. I'm not sure what that's all about. And we would be doing that during working hours. And they also suggested that we might want to visit both, not only Jacksonville, the Onslow site, but Wilmington. And, maybe you can enlighten me on that. The two sites are the same, Mickey? One's just bigger than the other. What's the rub there?
So Onslow County was the original Sunoco. That's who took most of the coast of North Carolina's recycling. Several years ago, I think it was about 10 years ago, the New Hanover County used to have a incinerator for their trash. And it did get a lot of pushback from residents, obviously. So what they did is they converted the incineration facility into a smaller version of the Onslow sorting facility. So your first step may want to be the New Hanover County. It's a lot smaller. It's a lot less. The Onslow County site can be a little overwhelming. It's very large. But what happens here at New Hanover County, they take out glass, they take out paper, they separate all the plastic, and then the plastic gets taken to the Onslow County facility for more sorting.
So these sites, excuse me, they all have, or both of these that we're talking about, conveyor sort machines? Is that what they use?
Yes.
Yep.
It's dumped by a trommel onto a conveyor belt.
Yep.
You have magnets that pull out the steel cans. You have the glass that's separated by weight because it is the heavier product. So each item has a different
Is there
sorting
manual
machine.
sorting also?
There is some, and it's mostly because of the contaminants. Plastic bags being one of them. They like to get those out before it reaches the actual machinery.
They don't use trommels in their sorting process at all, do they?
Yes,
They
sir.
do?
Mm-hmm.
I have experience from a prior life in RDF power plants where the municipal waste is made into refuse-derived fuel, and then it's burned in a boiler and generates electricity. And we did a lot of recycling and separation of materials at that time. But that was a long time ago.
And the contact that I just sent Mr. Eggert is for Daniel Walker. He is with Sunoco. He can also help you facilitate a tour once they start having them again.
Yeah, and the last point on that is, we can do it within days of our request. Again, whenever
Thank you.
that pandemic thing is over.
Is there
Do you want
anything
her to stay, or can she go on?
we told her she could leave if she wanted to.
Oh, okay.
She said she'd
I didn't
like
hear
to.
that.
She'd like to.
Okay.
Okay, the next item is to talk about stormwater projects. And Matt, welcome to your new position.
Thank you.
And, we look forward to working with you in stormwater. It's the rain garden is the first thing that we've had to work together on.
Right.
And, well, I'm sure there's a lot of other things that'll come up. So can you give us an update on what's going on in town?
Around the town, currently, I gave you all a list, put it in front of your desks and everything. This is kind of a general idea of what we're trying to get done this year. East Main and 4th through 6th Canal. If you've been onto the island, which I know some of you live there, right at the intersection of Sunset Boulevard and Main Street, you see a bunch of locates, a bunch of orange stripes, red stripes. That is actually part of this job on East Main to 4th and 6th Street. They were only supposed to locate from 4th Street to Canal, but they went above and beyond and wanted us to know where everything's at. That is part of year 2 of our capital improvement plan. So it's a couple years behind now, but we're trying to get it all situated. Talked with the engineer yesterday, and hopefully after this year's beach season, come this fall, we'll be able to start on that when it slows down and we're able to get in there and actually get contract work to be done. Acorn Court, right over here beside Great Oaks, off of Great Oaks. That won't be done. It has been awarded to J.P. Russ & Son. It won't be done until May, when it's a little bit warmer. They have a lot of work going on as well. That's not too high of a priority right now to get done, but it will be done in May. I got a couple other bids out. I talked with a gentleman last week. He's getting about 4 or 5 bids for different jobs. Twin Lakes is one off of Lakeshore Drive. There's some potholes forming in the middle of the road. Shouldn't be a huge fix, but it needs to be done. It is necessary. And Bayberry Lane over here off of, what is that? Right there at Magnolia. Actually, this homeowner has a huge sinkhole in their yard, so that's a high priority for us to get done now. I'm really waiting to get that estimate back and try to move forward with that. And as you see at the bottom, there's all these DEs are drainage easements. They're all back here on Magnolia and Dogwood. And I actually took before and after photos of them. I wasn't able to get those out to you today, but they have not been done. These easements were deeded to the town, I believe, in 2000, 2001. They haven't been touched since that, if not before that. So 20 some odd years, these have been, neglected. And we finally got a contractor to get in there and do the initial clearing. And the town itself, myself and Jerry, who's part of our department, we will be out there maintaining them from here on out. Steady flow. Hopefully, the mosquitoes love stagnant water. With it flowing, hopefully the mosquitoes won't be as bad this coming summer with it moving and flowing correctly. So other than that, if you guys have any questions about any of these jobs, any other concerns regarding stormwater, I'd be more than happy to answer.
I guess my question is, how can this committee help you in the stormwater challenges of Sunset Beach and
one big thing we noticed, especially with the drainage easements, as far as the infrastructure goes, I don't really know that there'd be too much that the ERC could help with as far as that goes. But with these drainage easements, a lot of folks, so you could spread the word this way, a lot of folks are taking, they'll take their trees that they've limbed up, they'll throw them in the easements, not thinking anything of it. They've been neglected for a lot of years, so they just think, hey, I can just dispose of it here. And
Out of sight, out of mind.
Right.
Right.
Big leaf piles, things like that. Well, they get into the ditches and they stop up the water. Well, stopping up the water, there's no flow. Mosquitoes are bad, and understandably so. People complain about mosquitoes. I mean, they're going to be bad around here anyway.
Right.
If we can mitigate that.
Well, it's interesting, Mr. Chairman, that you mentioned mosquitoes. When I was working for the Census Bureau, I did a lot of work behind Town Hall down here, and mosquitoes were terrible down there all the time.
Yes, sir.
I mean, you jump out of the car, they're right on you.
Yes, sir.
And I didn't see that in other parts of town so much.
Right.
But you're right, you live in a swamp, so they're bad everywhere all the time. Really.
And that is the area of all these easements that have been cleared.
Yeah.
This is the main area. Seaside Station is what's been taken care of primarily right now. Yes, sir.
Well, we'll look for opportunities to do demonstrations like the rain garden, and we'll come up with additional ideas, I'm sure, as we go forward.
Yes, sir.
So,
Sounds great.
and when we do, we'll get together with you and work on them together.
Sounds wonderful.
Okay, the next item is the update on the Coastal Communities Program application, and the application was due on January 15th, and can you update us on that, Chad?
Yes, sir, Mr. Chairman. We have submitted by the town of Lisa, and I submitted the grant application last Thursday, and got a email confirmation back that they had received it.
Excellent.
And I think by the 22nd, which is I think Friday, or it could be a later date. I'll have to double check. Any particular, in particular, contractors that we would want to work with, they would need to submit that application of their work to us. From my understanding, there's some little bit extra work that has to do with it. We're working on. Lisa's already on top of it, but the grant application is submitted.
Good. As I was reading in the application, it said that the DCM would assign contractors to the chosen parties.
Yes,
Chosen
but I think they
communities.
also give the option that if we want to work with a contractor in particular,
Okay,
we would have to submit that up front.
okay. And did they give you any more specific date when they'll make decisions? Sometime in
I think
February.
February. I think we talked about that
Right.
briefly. February is when they were gonna look. I think, from my understanding, that you told me that we would know pretty quickly if we were rewarded that or not.
Right. Did we get any feedback on the number of applicants that were?
All I got was an email saying that our application was
Okay.
received.
Well, let's hope that Sunset Beach is chosen and we get to move forward on this. Okay, the next is the rain garden project. We presented, Greg and I were here for the council meeting. We presented the rain garden project to council. It was approved to spend $4,500, but it's been put on hold because of permitting requirements for the new property next door.
Yes. Would you like me to give an update on that, where
Yes,
we're
sir.
at with that? Okay. The town has purchased, or have had purchased, the vacant lot next to us. So if we're traveling down Sunset Boulevard, it is the lot right before you get to the town traveling toward Sunset Beach. And the town wishes to take that as a capital improvement project and turn it into a parking lot, which is great because of the overflow parking, especially for meetings, council meetings that get rather busy. Parking in this parking lot can be challenging and crowded and fun. So we're going to take that and turn it into a parking facility. With that being said, and being a good example and obeying our UDO, I made a comment to Lisa. It's probably a good idea because you can't have a accessory use or accessory structure without a principal structure. So with that being said, the properties would need to be rightfully combined going through that process. And what that is taking away the lot line between us and that vacant piece of property, making it all one parcel. In discussions with, I don't know if Matt was in on that discussion. I know Dustin, our public works director, was with Lisa and our engineer for the town. With that being done, our state stormwater permit would have to be modified and updated. So the rain garden project has been put on hold, but with the caveat of probably not just doing one rain garden, but multiple rain gardens. That facility, the parking lot will give us some extra land to be able to do some extra things with. I do know that y'all are in works with Mr. Michaud, our former stormwater director, about putting it at the end of the hallway or the end of the door toward where the parking lot comes in off of, not exactly sure what that street is out there that comes into Sunset Boulevard.
Right.
But not only moving forward with that one and getting the trees removed, and the $4,500, correct me, Matt, or the $3,500 is just to get the 3 or 4 pine trees removed.
Right.
And then uprooting, I think there was some talk about uprooting and relocating the azalea bushes, creating the rain garden, but also this would give us an opportunity to move forward with maybe putting additional rain gardens on the extended property along with the parking facility.
Yeah.
So that's where we're at with that. I know that's going to be probably a budget item in the next fiscal year to get that done, provide some extra parking, but also some extra opportunities to provide some extra rain gardens and other stuff to that nature. So in lieu of all that, of updating our stormwater permit in the middle of a pandemic, it can bring an additional pushback on time to the projects.
Okay. I sent copies of the rain garden presentation to everyone. I don't know if anyone had any questions. One thing that I was surprised at, I did a calculation of the runoff from the rooftop in the parking lot that would go into the rain garden, and for every inch of rainfall, there's over 5,000 gallons of water that'll be collected in the rain garden. And then I was thinking, all right, the annual rainfall here in Sunset Beach is over 50 inches. So when you multiply 50 inches times 5,000 gallons, you get a lot of water that that rain garden will capture. It'll filter and treat, and it'll take it out of the flooding of the roads and everything else. And if we add rain gardens to the new parking lot, I expect that'll take the runoff from the other side of the town hall building and the other parking lot areas. So we're talking probably over 500,000 gallons of water that'll be captured and managed and filtered, by these demonstration gardens. So these rain gardens have a lot of benefit to the town, and this will turn out to be a very useful thing. Okay, the next item is the Tree City USA application and Arbor Day. Chad had told me that with the pandemic this year, the Arbor Day celebrations have been canceled.
Yes, sir, Mr. Chairman. The Arbor Day celebration is not necessarily canceled. It is just not a requirement for the 2021 year to qualify for Tree City USA. So when we would do our application a year from now, we would not have to put on there. The requirement for that every year would be waived because of the pandemic. I do know in talks with you that we wanted to continue with that. Breaking ground on the rain garden would be, or as a rain garden was established, having a kind of an in-house, smaller type celebration. I still think we're on board with that and wanting to do that and willing. However, the date is kind of to be determined at that point.
Right.
The other thing I wanted to update you with Tree City USA is that I'm working on finalizing the application. I have printed off, I've got to get our mayor to sign off. I've turned that over to Miss Lisa Anglin to get him to do that, upload it, submit it. It should be about the thing. I think there might be a fee, and I'm pretty sure I have the funds between Matt and I's budget. We can afford to get the Tree City USA submitted.
Okay.
And what I wanted to do is I got an email on it yesterday I wanted to bring to your attention. I don't know if one or all, I have to be careful with having quorums and all, but there is a free virtual conference that Tree City is doing this year. It's an online conference that if one of you were interested in attending, I don't know if one or multiple can, but it is free. If we qualified for Tree City USA last year, they came out with an email that you would be able to attend a free virtual conference put on by Tree City USA. So I wanted to give that just give you that information in front of you. I can email you out the specific email that I received, and if you wanted to designate anybody from the board to attend that virtually via, I'm assuming Zoom or some kind of Teams online deal, if that was an interest. And like I said, I just got that email yesterday.
Okay. Well, if you'd forward that,
Yep.
we'll figure out what the best thing is to
Okay.
do with that.
We'll do that.
The last item is I want to remind the ERC members that I get a lot of really good information from following the North Carolina DEQ on both Twitter and on Facebook and on email. And I would encourage you to also sign up for those things. They do a very good job of communicating what's going on in their world. Next item are agenda items for the next meeting in February. Do we have any suggestions?
Well, Mr. Chairman, I had written down two things. One was, of course, talking about the budget, then continue a discussion on recycling, kind of pick up where we left off here. And also, I was thinking a couple of days ago, somebody or an organization that might be good to hear from is the North Carolina Coastal Federation. And I don't know whether time-wise we want to have them come in during this meeting or perhaps the March meeting to talk about things that they do on the coast that may be of use to us. So,
I agree with you.
Yeah.
That was, Jan Harris suggested at the council meeting that we contact the Coastal Federation, and
I don't have any current contacts up there. You may.
well, they have an on-site website.
Yeah.
I have a contact.
Okay.
Their education outreach person.
I'd be happy to contact them for the behalf of the committee.
Go ahead.
And see if he or she can come down, maybe in February or March or whatever, because they've got their fingers in a lot of different pies up and down the coast.
How do you guys feel about that?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, we'll keep open the items that we discussed this month, and we'll add to it the budget and the Coastal Federation for next month.
Mm-hmm.
Is there any other suggestions? Oh, we have no public participations. We want to welcome our past chairman, Peter, to the meeting. Do you have any comments?
You guys do a great job.
Well, it's a lot to get our hands around, you know? I should remember those days.
All right. If that's the case, then we'll ask for a motion to adjourn the meeting.
I so move.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Mickey?